Good afternoon, fellow Plexers. And I know my clock in Windows says 8:59 p.m., but it's really 4:59 p.m. I've rebooted out of Linux into Windows, and I'm not going to fix the time because it'll just screw it up when I boot back into elementary OS. So today we're going to help Harold figure out how to best have a separate or a combined 4K movie library. And we're just going to talk about doing some things manually for some options before then getting into Filebot a little bit under Windows. He requested Filebot in Windows, so that's what we're doing in Windows today. I try not to use Windows at all, but sometimes it works. Okie doke. So to start off with, and again, I'm not a professional YouTuber. I don't prep any of my videos besides just getting a few things ready beforehand. I just do everything cold because if I screw up and I have to figure something out, it's best for people to work right along with me. If they can see me fix a problem that I get stuck on, it might help them. So I am going to have three different versions of an old movie called Metropilis. I'm going to use a 4K version, a default version, and a colorized version. I'm going to make additions out of them manually. But it all starts with TMDB to look it up. And then just to make it easier, I'm going to add them to my kids' movie library. And we'll also talk about how to separate them out. Matter of fact, let me talk about separating them out first. So here's the Plex Player app for Windows. And here is another file manager browser window. So you'll see I've got my Synology 1520, I have a master Plex directory, and then I have a movie sort folder, and inside this movie sort folder I have my actual library folders. I've got some files I still have to fix here. I have a concert library, I have a documentary library, I have an empty DVR library because I'm not using Plex's DVR. I have a kids movie library, my main movie library, a few 4K titles in the 4K library, some some artistic things on stage like live theater, opera and ballet and that sort of stuff. And I have a stand-up library and then just a test folder. So these are all individual libraries. And if you don't know how to sort out a separate 4K library, you can see I've got a lot of libraries. I've actually got two Plex servers going on here. My original Synology NAS, and I'm slowly working on the finishing touches of my new Synology NAS Plex server. So these are the libraries on that one. So here's my 4K library. If you're not sure how to create a library after your main movie one, go to the settings icon with a gear, go down to libraries under manage, and you just add a library. So I'm going to add another 4K and point to the one I already have. Click movies, give it a name. I'll call it 4K test. Click next, and now I'm going to browse to that media folder. So I've got Plex installed in a Docker. Oh, hold on a second. I'm screwing it up. I'm on the wrong server. So let me change to the new server. We'll do the same thing again. Movie, 4K test, and now next. And now because Plex is in a Docker, I can browse to the fake virtual folder I set up that actually goes to the files, and I can click into movies, and I can click into the 4K, and I can add. And all I have to do is click the ad, and Plex is going to start scanning them, and that will create a separate library just like this one. So if I go over to edit, let's see, I must have missed it. You'll see this is just what we were doing. So that's how to keep your media separate. And if you search for a movie, you'll see both versions, and it'll tell you which library you're looking in. And that's one way to have 4K media on a server. And this way you can choose what you share. You don't have to share it with friends, or if you've got maybe a really fast outgoing connection, maybe you're on Google Fiber or Verizon Fios or AT&T Fiber, and you've got gig service both ways, you can easily share that 4K library without transcoding, as long as they have decent incoming speed. So let me go back to that 4K library, and I think if I click these dots, if I grant access, I can add somebody's username there. There's another way to... That's not what I want. There's another way to get back to who you're sharing with. Let me hit edit again. Sometimes I forget things that I need to remember. And I'm stuck. I should be able to get to my users. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to go to the users. That's how you do it. Let's see. Where are my users? Sometimes you hit a brain freeze. Manage library access. So if I went to this user, clicked in, I'm not sharing any libraries on the new servers, but if I hit edit, I can go down and choose what library. So most of my friends and family would get most of my libraries, but not the 4K. Because it's so small, I don't share it. But if you wanted to, and they had the bandwidth and you had the bandwidth, you could do it that way. Sorry about the brain freeze. Alright, so that's how you keep a separate 4K library. Alright, so I don't need this for the time being. So good Plex practice always starts with finding the show you want to rename. It's as easy as going to the movie database for movies. I use the TV database for TV shows, but we won't get into that. That'll be for another video. So this is the most basic Plex name, and you can use it from the movie database or the IMDb. Plex keeps a combined cache of both databases to use as their movie scanner. So let's go into some files I have. Now these are just dummy files. This is a short recording that I made. Plex test. So they're not real media files, but they're just kind of like a short dummy video file that I can screw around with here. All right, let's see. How do you rename under Windows? So Plex lets you keep different versions of the same movie. I didn't prep to pull the document up, but basically you can just do this. 1080p, or you can put anything you want. Now if I did the same thing here, let's do this. If I did the same thing here, but changed this to 2160p, Plex will scan these two in as if they're the same version, and it will decide which one's best to play for you, or you can go in and manually play one or the other. If you want to have them separate in Plex, you'd have to split them apart, and then you could relabel one with an edition tag, or just a change to the name, maybe -4K, and then add your own poster that may be a doctor up with a 4K logo. I think there's a better way, and that's to use Plex's edition tags. So I'm going to rename these with the edition tag, and I can still keep the extra stuff here. Maybe this one's a 720p version. I can still keep some extra info in the file name. So this is just going to stay as it is. This one we're going to use an edition tag to have Plex automatically add the 4K tag to it. And that's just everything inside two curly Q brackets. And you just type edition, all lowercase, dash, whatever you want the tag to be. And it's going to be 4K. This one we're going to do a colorized edition tag. So again, the two curly Q brackets, edition dash colorized. Oh. Hit the wrong key. And those are just basic file names. Well, let me get the year in there. This one's not right. These are just basic manual file names. They don't take too long to make an adjustment to, and you still can see what the resolution is. Now I use Filebot to give a very descriptive file name that'll show the resolution, the video codec, whether it's 2 or 6-channel audio, the audio codec. I like having a very descriptive file name. And you can use Filebot to do something as simple as this, or even simpler. You can use Filebot to automatically detect what edition a movie is. Like it won't look for a 4K edition or a colorized because none of that extra information is in a database for Filebot to pull from. But you can still use the edition tag manually. And if I had, say I had 10 4K movies I wanted to rename all at once quickly, with the edition tag for 4K, I could make a manual Filebot expression to only run on those certain types of movies, and I could rename all 10 quickly to add this tag in. It wouldn't be looking for an automatic tag. Alright, so let me copy these into, let's see, how do you copy under Windows? Control C works, and Control V in my other. Oh, I screwed up. Screwed up off screen. I'm not good with Windows. Control X. I accidentally copied into a movie folder in my kid's library. Oh, it still didn't work. I'm not a fan of Windows. Alright, so that worked there. Now, I did it without putting them in a proper movie folder.
Motion detected.
These could all be in the Metropilis parentheses 1927 folder. I'm just taking a few shortcuts here. So let's bring this back over and let's scan the kids' library. Oh, I'm scanning the wrong server. Okay, so now we see all three movies pop up uniquely, and you'll see that it has a little 4K moniker here and the little colorized moniker there. If I click into that, here's the edition tag. Easy peasy to keep the movie in your same movie library, a 4K movie in your same movie library, and you've automatically let Plex discover it with the edition tag you gave the movie. So let me pull them out for now. And let's rescan again. Okay, so they're gone. And let's move on to Filebot. And I pulled a movie off my server because I want to use this as an example when we get into Filebot. Because this is an official edition, Filebot uses all its knowledge. It can check file sizes. It can automatically discover that this is the remastered version of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. So we're going to rename that to start right now. And this is how my complex expression looks. So let me remove all that extra amount, and I'll remove the TMDB database number 2 that my custom expression uses. And we're down to the most simple file names we can have. And of course, this listing at TMDB has a colon after Star Trek. It's an illegal character. It has to be removed. And actually, how the heck do you keep windows on the same detail view? Let's do this. Let's get these out, and we'll get rid of this folder. And let me see. Again, fish on a water without Linux. All right, we don't want the new edition that's still buggy. I'm going to drag these in. So these are my custom presets. They may not be up to date because I haven't used Windows in a while for a demonstration. The new version of Filebot is going to have a couple presets. So what I want to do first is I want to add in the default movie preset, which is just organize movies for Plex, and we'll add that in manually. Edit preset, new preset. Alright, let's change the data source to the movie DB and not the movie DB TV. And then we'll paste in the expression. So the drive is going to create folder structure, and it's going to put it in the media folder. So I don't want to use that. I just want to use the Plex ID. So save preset. Now I can come here and organize movies for Plex preset. Well, I guess it's still going to create structure. But it didn't know what to do with these three, so it added like parts, CD1, CD2, CD3. But it got the Wrath of Khan correct, and it's also adding the movie database number in it. So I've got to take the developer of Filebot's expression there and see about adapting it for my own use, to try to simplify mine while still getting everything that I need. So let me use my expression. I'm going to do movies full and not create the folders. So it's still missing the manual edition tags. It will never get that for this because they're not official editions. But my expression added back the remastered collection tag, edition space remastered. And it's also adding in the TMDB number for everything. And here's where I really like it. It's adding descriptiveness of 1080p X264 6-channel AAC. So the video, resolution and codec, and the number of channels for the audio and the codec for the audio. Now on my latest expression, I put this in parentheses. It's not a rule with Plex for movies, but it became a rule for Plex. Well, not a rule, it became a suggestion for Plex with TV show episodes. In a TV show library, if you put this extra information in brackets, it tells Plex to ignore it. The old rule is still in effect for a movie library, and it still works in a TV show library, just to keep it separated at the end with a space dash space. So you'll see here, let me get rid of these. You'll see here that the colon is in the proper name, but if we rename, I got to put my license in. I'm not gonna bother with that because it will just rename them properly as they were. But it's very easy to use Filebot with some custom expressions, and that's what I want to talk about next. Let me bring my expressions out. So let me go up to the top for movies, and they look really complex. So I don't use this one. This is the one I use the most. So let's make that larger and break it down. Now the name and the year and the TMDB ID number are for the folder. And then you have the same thing duplicated again to create that in the file name. And now notice I have a space. So it's curly Q brackets, N for name of the movie, close the curly Q brackets. It's a space, and now we want the year in parentheses, so we got a parentheses on either side of Y, which is in curly Q brackets for the year. And now we want the TMDB number, and we want that in curly Q brackets itself. So to get that code, we have to have this. TMDB space $ID and in curly Q brackets, that's like a command. And then to put it in curly Q brackets in the file name, I have to include the brackets. And for whatever reason, it's in quotes with a space, and then it's end quote without a space, and then the visible curly Q bracket. It works, I don't know why. So then we use the forward slash or backslash or whatever it is to switch from the folder to the file name, and this is just a repeat. So then we have another space, and now this is the whole little formula we need for Filebot to look and see if the version of your movie matches a known edition, and that will add the edition tag. So then I add a space dash space to then put extra information in. And like I said, the Filebot version on Windows hasn't been updated. This is where I add the brackets because I assume Plex may add that rule to their movie naming guide like they've done for the TV shows. They may not, but it doesn't hurt. Doesn't help right now either. So I don't have to have that, or I could have it. Doesn't matter. So anyway, inside the first set of curly Q brackets is VF for video format. And then a space between the next set, which is VC for video codec. Another space, audio format. Another space, audio codec, and then I end it with my brackets. Now the rest of all this is something the developer of Filebot helped me with. I want to be able to look inside an MKV or MP4 file for embedded subtitles. And the subtitles could be anything, but all I really care about is whether there's an English subtitle embedded or whether there's a unlabeled subtitle embedded. So if Filebot finds a English subtitle, this gets added to the end of the file name. if Filebot finds an unlabeled subtitle, this UND-SUB gets added. And that you could call this anything. You could call this unknown if you wanted. But this is what the Filebot developer put himself, and I just thought, well, it must mean something important, so I used the same name. And I don't know what null does. Maybe it returns nothing if it doesn't find it. And then finally, without a space, in curly Q brackets, is SUBT. That's for Filebot to automatically discover the language of external subtitles, which is really only going to be in the format of .srt, and there's another one. I'd have to look in the manual. I don't know, there's an AST or there's something begins with an A, but I haven't seen that too often in the wild yet. So if you have 4 subtitle files, which usually they're just a text file you can open up, and if one's in English or two's in English and the other one looks like German and the last one looks like I don't know, Spanish, you could label them manually. But if you have media info installed alongside Filebot, media info helps Filebot look inside the subtitle files and determine what language they are and automatically add the language code. And you also need media info to look inside the file for all this information too. So this is a complex expression. I'm going to put it in the description of the video when I post it to YouTube, but you can use this as a guide and break it down. If you don't want to create folder structure, you can just grab this part. If all you want to do is add the TMDB number and look for official edition tags, and then you can, without a space, add this on to the end of it to rename external subtitles with the language that they're in. If you want the extra stuff about the video format and video codec, you can add just these two. If you want all 4, you can add all 4. You don't need to use the brackets like I am. I'm just anticipating maybe a possible change down the road. And then the last part is to auto-discover embedded subtitles. Now, why that's important is if you're RIP Media and you didn't do something right and you've got English subtitles that are embedded, well, running it through Filebot quickly and have this come up, it means you've got a problem. And if the subtitles are unlabeled, it screws up Plex's auto language settings. So say I have a video with French audio, but it has English subtitles, but they're not flagged properly. I can quickly reflag them as English with a program like MKV Toolnix, and I want to do that because if I set my server up to automatically play forced subtitles or foreign language subtitles, if you're watching a foreign film with foreign audio and it has English subtitles, they will turn on by default with that forced setting because you naturally need subtitles if it's not your native language. So you want the audio language to be set properly, and sometimes it's set as unknown or not even listed. And just running this through Filebot, it'll only add it if there's embedded English subtitles or if there's an embedded unnamed subtitle. I don't know how long this would be if it auto-discovered every possible subtitle, but it's just not necessary. So yeah, that's about it. You can mix and match what I've added to my own custom expressions, and like I said, I want to maybe start with this and build off from that instead of doing it the way I'm doing it. But if you look through the forums at Filebot, people will post their expressions that they use. Some of them I understand completely, and some I can't wrap my head around. Another group user shared an expression. My normal default movie expression will add double years for TV shows that have a year in the official TVDB entry. If you go to TVDB to look up TV shows, usually there's not a year in the proper show name. Every once in a while there is, and this was his expression he uses that removes the extra year. Now, I think I can accomplish the same thing by adapting this expression, and that won't add the extra year. But doesn't hurt to throw this in my file in case I need to use it. So anyway, that's my video for Harold. And basically you can add 4K media to the same library. You can do it a couple different ways. You can manually split them apart like we talked about, and assign your own artwork and stuff like that. You can simply use the Plex, it's not editions, multiple versions I think, by simply doing a space dash by the resolution. This could say 4K, this could say HD, whatever you want. It just creates two separate files, because if we just use the basic file name, well, you can't have three versions of a file all named the same. So this would be fine as a default one, but you need to change them up somehow. And if you change the file name to include this edition tag in it, Plex will scan it in separately so you won't have to split it. And again, let me go back to Filebot. I forgot this one point. Let me revert some changes here. Okay, so let me copy this for a second. All right, what do we have with Windows for a text editor? Notepad. One thing I forgot. So say this is going to be all you use. All right, so this will create the folder. It'll give it the TMDB ID number in the folder, create the movie file name with a TMDB, and it'll look for the language of the external subtitles if you have media info also going. Well, if you had those 10 or 15 or 20 4K movies that you wanted to rename with Filebot to add the 4K edition tag, you can just add a manual tag like this. And this means anything that you run this expression on, whether it's 4K or not, is going to have this added to it. So as long as you label it properly as a preset in Filebot, you can just keep that in your back pocket, and when you have to rename a single or 3 or 4 or multiple versions of movies that are 4K to put in your main movie library, you can just run this one edition and it's going to set it up perfectly. And you might want to do something different too. You might want to remove this from the folder name, and that way it'll create a folder that, oh, I'm sorry, that was a TMDB. Don't remove that, because every version of the same movie has the same TMDB ID number. So I misspoke there. Yeah, so if you had the 3 versions of Metropilis, they'd all go under the same folder, and Plex would just find them. And I guess that's the final thing. If you're going to add a manual edition tag like this, I would not keep them in your plain movie library without somehow notifying yourself. So in my sort folder for kids movie libraries, I have every movie in a proper folder. Well, I do it different for a special edition like this, because Filebot, if you run it again on it, the regular version or regular expression that doesn't force this to be added, it will just remove that. So you'd have to know what's inside every folder before you did it. So I would just create one sort folder in your library folder and just name it 123 space dash special 4K editions, just so it's always at the top, and just so if you're ever tempted to run Filebot, you won't. Of course, if you run Filebot from the level above, you won't see that, but kind of once you know you have that, you'll see it so much, you just won't have an accidental use of Filebot to rename all those. But if you do, they're already in a separate directory. So if you're just renaming and not creating folder structure, they're all right there to fix again. So I know this is long, it's a little rambling, but I don't know. I get stuck with something, I want to get past it and show you how I get past it too. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'll never ask you to subscribe to my channel. My channel is only to help out other fellow Plex users. And I'm happy now because I get to get out of Windows and get back into elementary OS. Happy Plexing.